Thursday Checkdown. I'm your host, Greg Kellogg, and my co-host, Tipp, has a new, different album cover over his shoulder. What's going on, Tipp?
This one right here. This one is a fun album. It's by Surfaces. It's a Horizon album. It's really fun. It's kind of poppy. I feel it when I'm going down the street, sunshine outside, and it's kind of a fun ride, man. It's gonna take you for a fun ride.
Okay, well, we got a lot to talk about tonight. We got two really special guests. Our mission is that we're provide the best information we can in a fun and positive manner. And we're going to bring on Rick Brusuelas, who you guys have seen before on the show, and a new blood. We got Dave Heilman with us tonight as well. So, Rick and Dave, how you guys doing tonight?
Awesome. Thanks for having me, guys.
You doing good, Dave?
I'm doing great.
Well, Rick,
he's got that cool blue light behind him, man. He's doing fine.
I'm missing fantasy football already. Yeah, I'm a dynasty guy, so dynasty season is upon us.
Well, yes, absolutely.
There's no off season in dynasty.
Nope.
No off season.
Yeah. All right. So, Rick, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you writing at? What are you doing? You're a pro tonight, so you must have an affiliation.
Yes,
and that word in there.
And affiliation is the right word. I've been honored to join the TSA, so I'm going to be doing co-hosting on this very podcast on the go forward, and I will hopefully be contributing some written articles as well. And so extremely excited to do that, and just love the TSA team. So hopefully I'll get a chance to stick around.
Hey, now before we get too deep into today's show, because we got a lot of stuff to cover, there's some records that were set last week, and I just thought we should probably congratulate some people. Rick, you got anybody you want to talk about?
Well, actually, there's a couple players that I'm going to be talking about later in my starts and sits, and they're going to be both of them are affected by some of the
no, I'm talking about somebody who set a record last week, a player that you love.
Actually, you're gonna have to help me more than that. I thought you were going to talk about me and my
he's a quarterback that used to play for the Packers. Do I need to tell you the record he set? Most times sacked in a career.
Aaron Rodgers. Oh my gosh! Yeah.
Record.
And he'll be coming up in my starts and sits, specifically my sits. But
you had a couple
record.
Records you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, look, Greg, and I'm going to talk directly to you because at the beginning of this season, you talked very bad about Brock Bowers. You said that he was going to be a rookie that doesn't really show much, that doesn't really do anything because he's a rookie tight end, and we have to stay away from those. But Greg,
they had Mike Myers, who they had just drafted the year before.
Yes. And, you of all people, Greg, should know better because you got a stud rookie tight end from last year and Sam Laporta. It could happen, and it happened last year. And guess what? It happened again this year. And Brock Bowers.
So what records did he break?
He broke the receiving record for the rookies and the receptions record. He killed it this year. He is an amazing guy. He is a half a touchdown away from taking over his bet at the beginning of the season, which was 4.5 touchdowns from Brock Bowers. He's right now at 4. So we are all praying and hoping and that
I love the fact
getting over that 5
that he destroyed a record that stood since 1961.
Crazy.
Mike Ditka had 1,076 yards as a rookie receiver, and he's already topped that, and he's got another game to go.
Yeah, all right. And I hope he does really well going forward.
But who's another guy did he break for receptions?
Oh, I don't know that one.
Puka Nakua, but
Oh, was
maybe
it last
just
year? That Puka?
year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
So, look at this. You got Sam Laporta, Puka Nakua, and now you got Brock Bowers. These are studs that we're talking about here, guys. These are bona fide fantasy superstars. It's crazy.
Okay, well, I know that Dave wants to talk about some receiving too, but I've got two more records that I want to talk about. First one is most rushing yards by a quarterback in the career, and that's Lamar Jackson past Michael Vick. He only passed him by a yard, but that's a record that stood eight years. He's still got another game.
Obliterate that record.
He's got another game, and then he's got next year too. But the most rushing yards by a rookie quarterback, I didn't think Robert Griffin Jr. held it, but he did in 2012. And Jayden Daniels broke it, and he broke it by almost 50 yards this year, and he's got another game to go past that 50 yards. But Dave, you had some wide receiver stuff you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, so Jamar Chase is chasing the Triple Crown, and he is in elite company. I know he gets the extra week, but he's already joined the 100, 1,500, and 15 club. Only 4 other receivers have done that in the history of the NFL. And Jamar Chase is just, we're getting so numb to greatness. He is playing so well that like last week, his 22 points in fantasy was like, oh, that was a bad week. You know, so that's 100 receptions, 1,500 yards, and 15 touchdowns. The only other receivers to do it, Randy Moss, Jerry Rice, Cooper Kupp, and Marvin Harrison Sr.
That's quite a crowd. That really is. And we're looking forward to see if others can, with the with the increase in the passing game, we may see others join that club too. And those are pretty impressive numbers. So we still do the AI things though. And I call it to AI or not to AI. And these segments, we ask SportsMind to evaluate 3 players. Last week, we asked it for week 17 in a PPR league that also gives points for return yards. Have to specify that. Please rank Tank Bigsby, Hollywood Brown, and Hunter Henry with pros and cons. SMAI predicted Henry, Brown, and Bigsby. The crowd and I went with Brown, Bigsby, and Henry. We were right. Okay, the actual results, Hollywood Brown didn't do great, but his 8.6 points led the other 2 because Tank Bigsby only got 3.3 points and Hunter Henry got nothing. So 4 points for SMAI. He's at 42 with 1 more week to go. I do want to say this. Next week, I want to ask the SportsMind a different type of question, like a dynasty question. Who would you draft in a startup dynasty? Something like that. Yeah. So if you got an idea, go ahead and text it to me, and I'll look at it. And if I like it, if it's difficult enough, I'll ask the AI, and we'll see how it does. But this week, we asked SportsMind for Week 18 PPR League that also gives points for return yards. Please rank Travis Kelce, Devonta Smith, and Aaron Jones with pros and cons. Now, the reason I went with these 3 is because my thought, and here's what I said. Jones is playing on a team that's trying to get the number 1 seed. His team wants to win this week. Yes, there's injury concerns, but he's more likely to play through them than the other 2 who will probably be resting. Kelce, I don't think plays at all in this game, and I think Devonta Smith plays maybe a quarter or a half, but not a full game by any means. So with me, I went Jones, Smith, and Kelce based on what I expect them to play. The crowd went with Aaron Jones first, Devonta Smith second, and Travis Kelce just with me. 41, 33, and 26%. But what did Sir Winnington think?
Ranking recommendation. Devonta Smith. Given his explosive potential and the extremely favorable matchup, Smith takes the top spot, especially in a PPR league. Travis Kelce. Despite the tough matchup, his high target volume and role make him a reliable fantasy choice, though team strategy might affect his playtime. Aaron Jones. Ranked 3rd due to injury concerns and a tough matchup. His status needs close monitoring to gauge his readiness and role. Everything considered, Devonta Smith seems the most promising in Week 18, given the Giants' defensive struggle and his recent performances.
Hey, I gotta say something. Wait, Greg, wait, I gotta say something real quick about Sir Whittington.
Okay.
Because he's getting a little cheeky on us. Did he just call Travis Kelce Travis Kels?
Yeah, these Brits don't know how to pronounce American names.
Wow. Okay, all right, we can move on, Greg.
Okay, but you're going to post the entire recommendation, right?
I sure will. Yes, sir.
So if you're listening to this, but you're not live in the chat, you don't see everything the AI gives, and they give a lot of information. But if you're live with us, you're going to be able to read it out of the chat.
Yep. So this day in history.
Oh, yes. In January 2nd, 1776, Austria ended the use of interrogation by torture. I don't know about you guys, but for me, there's some draft picks I made that tortured me with inconsistent play all year. And mainly, I went heavy on the rookie running backs. And by the rookie running backs, I mean Blake Corum, I mean Kamani Vidal, and I mean Jalen Wright. I really thought at least two of those guys would be starting by season end, and I thought two of them would be sharing time from week one. None of them did. I mean, yes, Corum got some more usage late in the season, and Vidal did as well, but none of them really would consistently do 10 to 15 touches, which is what I was looking for from a shared situation. So those three killed me. But I got to ask you guys, let's go to you, Dave. Who did you have that tortured you this year?
Well, Tyreek Hill. When I look at these guys, I'm looking at guys that I want to blame someone for getting hurt. Ken Walker, those kind of players, they missed time. It was frustrating. But when they were in and healthy, they played well. Tyreek Hill played through injury all year. He had the Tua situation, which obviously that wasn't, his fault. But you picked him in the first round, probably in the top 5 picks. I know in Dynasty, I spent a first-round draft pick to go pick him up, put my team over the top. That really was not a move to put me over the top that I thought it was going to be. So, yeah, Tyreek Hill, I think he played every game this year, but did not feel like it.
Yeah, I understand that. Rick, who do you got?
Yeah, and I know it's not fair, rookie quarterbacks and the like, but I picked both of the Chicago Bears first round picks. Caleb Williams was brought in as a first pick overall. He was and one of the reasons that everyone was excited about him was that he was going into the best team possible, compared to most early quarterbacks that are picked. He was going to have 3 great wide receivers with DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, and of course my other pick, which is Rome Odunze. Unfortunately, as with rookie quarterbacks, things didn't go the way as planned. He was 19th, and he had 19 touchdowns, only 19 touchdowns. He was good about not throwing the ball for interceptions. He only had 6 interceptions, but he only threw for about 3,400 yards, which ranked 18th in the league. He was 17th in touchdowns with 19. And we touched early on about the problem with sacks that Aaron Rodgers was setting a record for. Well, Caleb Williams had 67 sacks. Now, of course, that could be blamed on the offensive line, but even Caleb will say you can't just completely blame it on them. There were plenty of times where he held on to the ball way too long. And so Rome Odunze, great prospect. I think Mark Harmon said his game reminds me of Devontae Adams. someone else said something funny like if Chris Olave and Michael Thomas had a baby, Rome Odunze. And I'm a big fan of Mark Harmon and perception. But when they brought up the first chart on Rome Odunze, it was the first time there was a rookie that was all green in all the different routes. He will still be a great wide receiver. I have no doubt about that.
One day, I'm sorry to cut you off, but we got to move on. And it's the guy that's going to lead the next segment is going to tell us who disappointed him.
There was two of them, and they're two running backs, and one is named Travis Kelce. I'm going to read some stats off to you guys because it's not worthy of a third-round pick that I got him in several of my drafts because I thought that the Jaguars were just going to be one of those teams in the up and coming, and especially from the offensive side. They had a young stud wide receiver come in this year that I was high on, and I thought that was only going to help the run game. It helped Travis Etienne, but boy, was I wrong. 2 touchdowns on the whole year from rushing? I mean, what are we talking about, Travis Etienne? 527 yards rushing this year? Like, what are we talking about, dude? And it was just a terrible season across the board from him, from the Jaguars' run game.
When you go back and listen to this, you're going to find out that you said Travis Kelce.
I said Travis Etienne.
You said Travis Kelce.
Oh, Travis Etienne.
You did say Kelce at the start.
Okay, my bad. Travis Etienne. I'm just upset.
I was just trying to figure when he was
his name to
back.
Kelce. I'm changing his name to Kelce because they both got 2 touchdowns. So anyway, no, but look, I think that Etienne was a mistake. I think that the Jaguars are now seeing that he just doesn't fit their offense, and I don't know where their offense is going now with possibly a head coaching change too. So I just don't think he fits in there. I think that they may move on from him. Tank Bigsby was something that we saw a little bit last year. Happy that we saw more of it this year. I think he is the back of the future. And then if Travis Etienne is there, he will probably turn into a glorified third down back. And the other guy for me, it is not really his fault. It's really, really not his fault because he's come back. This is his second year from coming back from an ACL injury. And last year he proved he was worthy of a number 1 pick. And this year, for some reason, the New York Jets forgot to run the ball. And I don't know why they forgot to run the ball. I understand they got a rookie in Braylon Allen coming in as well. But that is more reasons for you to run the ball even more. You got a quarterback who's 40 years old, who just came off an Achilles injury and now surgery. And now you want to not – I just don't understand why you're not going to go and run the ball with Breece Hall. And Breece Hall is my guy. He has been such a disappointment for people who drafted him in the first round. There's been several weeks where he just didn't return anything to you. And a first-round pick should at least give you 10 points or 12 points. And he hasn't returned on any of those. Dave
gave you the reason why. It's the offensive coordinator that plays under center in New York. But we've got to go to the next segment, Tipp. And I don't want to cut short your segment. So,
yeah.
Iggy, if you could, take us to the next segment.
All right, so this segment here, guys, it's one of those where we're gonna have some fun. So these are studs to sit. The stud to sit segment. It's been fun for us all year. We dipped back down under 60%. This was something that we've been high on most of the year. We're at 58%, 34 out of 23, and with 11, I guess you could say pushes. So last week we were 1-2-1. So there was a lot of weird things that happened last week anyway. And I think it's going to get even weirder this week. So we're going to start with our studs to sit, and we're going to start with you, Greg, because this one is, I think, kind of an easy one. And I kind of took the easy route too, but I want to hear from you who your stud is that you're sitting and why.
Well, it's easy. It's quarterback 10, Pat Mahomes. He's not going to play this week. He's not. He does have an injury, but he's not on the injury report.
Yeah.
but the coaching staff has already come out and said they're going to rest their starters
Yeah.
because they have nothing to gain.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for a starter in week 18, make sure they're going to be playing. The
Right.
Eagles are going to rest. Well, they said they're going to do a mix of veterans and younger players. So
Yeah.
you don't know who for the Eagles. I think they're going to sit Saquon, which is insane to me. So he's already got 2,000, but he could break the all-time record if he played and played well.
Inexcusable.
It is. They're killing our fantasy leagues that end in week 18. Who you got next, Tipp?
Yeah, the next one's going to be Dave. Dave, tell us about your player to sit in week 18.
Well, I was going to put David Njoku, but I think they've already announced that he's not going to play. And my concerns with anyone on that Browns offense is just the quarterback situation. So I'm just going to sit the entire Cleveland Browns. Jerry Jeudy was on a heater with Jameis Winston, and they're not playing Jameis Winston under the center. So Jerry Jeudy will be my pivot. It's a mess over there. Nick Chubb came back. Jameis Winston, the team, the culture started to get a little better. They started to play well. Jameis got benched. Nick Chubb got hurt, and they were the same old Browns that we're used to. And whether it's DTR, Bailey Zappi, I'm out.
What do you think about Jerome Ford, though? Would you play him?
Because of the situation where you have so many bad options, Jerome Ford is going to be in there. I'm trying to see where I have Jerome Ford ranked, but I think
I love guests that do rankings because I don't do rankings. I just, oh my God.
Well, I'm getting week 18 questions, and I'm like, dude, I got to figure out who's playing this week before I go and actually rank people. I still think the offense is going to be pathetic. And so Jerome Ford is going to have to break one to do anything. And so I have him right outside. I have him in RB3 territory. I think it's going to take him breaking a big one.
Didn't Jerry Jeudy get like 12 catches last week? I think DTR just looked at Jeudy. The week before, he got 3 targets, 2 catches. The first week with DTR. But I think I chose Jerry Jeudy last week. And he did finish 13-24, which gave us a tie. That's one of the pushes. But, man, I don't think DTR looked at anybody except Jerry Jeudy last week.
No, you're right, Greg. He had 12 receptions last week for 94 yards. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, and
I think that's a gutsy call to sit him in. I really do.
And Joe updated us with Jerome Ford being out. So,
Ford's out. Okay.
Like I said, I was planning on talking about David Njoku, and Njoku ended up being out.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's a gutsy call. I like it.
Sometimes when you're a team and you don't have anything to play for, and these guys have these little nagging injuries that have happened through the course of the season, they're going to shut them down because they may need them next year. They may, sometimes the injuries may hurt a little bit more this week because they're trying to make more money in off season. So it's just certain things, certain crazy stuff that happens this time of year. But for me, my stud to sit, I kind of went the easy route with Greg. I went with Mark Andrews. I don't think that he's going to play much this game. They don't have anything to prove. But, man, this guy's been on a tear lately. 5 touchdowns the last 5 games. 1 touchdown the last 5 games. So, it's been crazy how he's been performing. And a lot of people were remember they were wanting to get rid of him, and they were wanting to say, I'm going to drop him because Isaiah Likely is the brand new thing, and it's not the case at all. It's always been Mark Andrews. He was dealing with some injuries early in the offseason, dealing with those types of things, getting revved back up, and now we get to see what this truly is. And I think he makes an impact in the playoffs. So I think that they get him in there because he has an ankle injury. He has been practicing in full. He doesn't have an ankle injury. They'll get him out there, just kind of see how he does, get him, warmed up, revved up for next week or the week after. And get him started up for the playoffs. But Rick, we want to hear from you. Who is your stud to sit?
Well, I could have gone the route of choosing the easy person like James Cook. He's probably going to sit. Ray Davis is probably going to start there. Or I could have taken, there's Michael Carter's going to be a starter in Arizona this week. So I could have said James Conner, but I went out on a limb and I went with Garrett Wilson. And the Jets, like the Cleveland Browns, just a mess, especially on offense. Miami's got something to play for where, the Jets are just playing out the season. But the real reason I'm thinking Garrett Wilson's not going to do much this game, Devontae Adams is one touchdown away from having the 500th career touchdown from Aaron Rodgers. Devontae Adams also caught the 200th, the 400th. I have a feeling that there's going to be a lot of work to Devontae Adams. That's good. As a result, Garrett Wilson's going to not get much done this week.
That's impressive.
That was good. Yep.
We do have another segment coming up. Iggy? Right. That's right. Put me in, coach. If you're going to tell people to sit studs, you got to tell them who to put in. I mean, a lot of people might think Carson Wentz, but I just don't know if he's going to have any help in Kansas City because they just don't care right now. So I went a different way. I actually went with a guy that's got a reason to play. Now, Dobbins, he rests just outside the top 24 to make him eligible. He's actually running back 25. All right. He missed 4 whole games and parts of another one, and he's running back 25. So this feels like cheating too. But I'm sorry. I need a win here. He's 58 rushing yards to earn a $150,000 bonus. You can bet Jim Harbaugh is going to play him enough to get the 58 rushing yards or more. Also, I think I keep wanting to say San Diego. I think the Chargers really want to win this game. I do. I'm not sure how much it will improve, if at all, their playoff standing, but I think they want to go into the playoffs with a winning record, with a win behind them. So, and their defense is playing great. So I think that you're going to see JK get a lot of work this week. Tipp, I'm going to you next. Who do you have?
Yeah, so for me, it's Isaac Guerendo. And, I talked about him several weeks ago because I saw potential back when week 6 when he rushed for 99 yards and he slid to avoid from getting into the end zone and hurt some people in fantasy, whoever. But most likely you didn't have him back then in that part of the season. But I like the way the kid runs. I like that he has pass catching abilities as well. I wrote about him in my latest article. And look, the status of the 49ers offense as far as the backfield goes is still up in the air. We don't know what the future holds for Christian McCaffrey. I do anticipate him being back, but we just don't know. Jordan Mason showed really well this season, but then he got banged up. So this is kind of a tryout for Isaac Guerendo. It's like, hey, I'm worthy of, maybe potentially becoming a really, really key piece in this offense. So that, and then when you partner that up with a team like the Cardinals, who've given up 106 rushing yards per game in the last 3 games to running backs, that right there in of itself is telling me, okay, that he has a good matchup. Then I go and look at how many touchdowns they've given up in this last 3 games, and they've given up 5 total rushing TDs in this last 3 games. So that, for me, I always look at trends, especially this time of the season, where you're fishing for certain players. Well, chances are you had Isaac Guerendo, but now you're looking to start him. I think that you're going to be in good hands, good graces with him this week. I know the 49ers don't have anything to play for. I know Brock Purdy isn't there, and it's going to be even more opportunities for Guerendo as long as he plays. They could, at the end of at the beginning of Sunday, say they don't want him to play. They want to hold him out, and that could just mean that they are really looking at him for the future. But if they really want to see what they have in him, I think that they play him this week and see what they have.
I love the way Garindo plays. I really do.
He's fun to watch.
We have a question in our mailbag segment, and I'm actually recommending the other guy start over Garindo this week because of some things, but we'll cover that later. But that said, I had to share with everybody. Evan, SoCal Ball Nerd, just said that the Chargers will be playing for the 5th seed. If they win and Pittsburgh loses, they get Houston in the first round instead of Baltimore. Now, you got to tell me, the way Houston's playing, that's incentive to play JK the entire game. All right, next, we're going to Rick. Rick, what do you have?
Yeah, and that was a great pick from Garindo. But mine is Calvin Ridley. And as the resident Texan fan here, it hurts my heart to choose the wide receiver going against them. But the Texans give up a lot of touchdowns, a lot of yards to the wide receiver. Week 12, Ridley had 5 catches for 93 yards, didn't get any touchdowns, but still had led the team in passing, receptions, and yardage. I really do think that he's going to go off also because he's 59 yards away from 1,000. And both he and the coach of Tennessee both were asked about that 1,000-yard mark. And definitely Calvin Ridley's thinking about it. And I think that the coach was also hinting that the team is also thinking about it. So Calvin Ridley, big game against the Texans.
Yeah, Joe in the chat, let me bring that up so you can see it, reminded me that JK also gets a 150K bonus if he gets 58 yards. I think I mentioned that in my analysis, but if not, I am sorry, because that is a consideration. It really is. Jim Harbaugh wants to get his players paid. And I want to let everybody know before we go to Dave, Rick, Tipp, and myself all live in the greater Houston area. And we are actually going to all meet in person for the first time. Now, I've met Tipp before, but we haven't met Rick yet. And eat at what restaurant, Rick?
Corkscrew in just outside of Old Town Spring. And we've actually met. We met at the draft, the Houston.
Oh, the Houston draft.
Live draft, yeah.
Yeah, it's Scott Fishbowl Houston draft. But this will be the first time all three of us are together, I'm pretty sure.
No, I was there too. I met Rick.
Oh my God, my mind is just gone. Rick, Dave, save me. Save me, Dave.
It's too tight, Greg. The hat's too tight.
Hey, so I was, when I first saw the question, I was going a little deeper. And so Brandon Cooks was going to be my guy. I actually thought about Khalil Herbert with the Chase Brown situation with the, I thought that's right. That's actually thought where I thought Tipp was going for a second. But let's talk about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Baker Mayfield is on a heater. He's a little peed off that he did not get a Pro Bowl. He probably doesn't care, but come on, he deserved to be in there. Jalen McMillan is a dude. Jalen McMillan is outplaying all of the Washington receivers right now, and Baker Mayfield is slinging it. I think Jalen McMillan is someone that you must start. Right now, I got him inside my top 20 wide receivers this week. He's been playing really, really good, and they're trying to lock up that division. Tampa Bay's won the division 3 years in a row. They're trying to go for one more, and I think McMillan has a good game. I do think they pepper Mike Evans trying to go for that 1,000 yards, but they're going to throw the ball 40 times, and so McMillan's going to get at least 8 to 10 of those.
Yeah, that's the only concern is that the discrepancy in targets is just going to be so far for Mike Evans that they kind of maybe forget a little bit about Jalen McMillan. But you're right, man. I talked about him last week. I wrote about him last week. He's been hot, dude. It's kind of mirroring a little bit of what Amon-Ra did in 2021, his rookie season. At the end of the season, he just came out and was scoring 20 points every week. And this is what Jalen McMillan has been doing. And he's a good receiver. I think they've found something really special in him. And I think that's going to be a really good trio for some time to come when Chris Evans gets back. Or Chris Godwin, not Evans. Chris Godwin.
We've got extra time here. Let's Dave, do you think that Mike Evans might retire after this year and McMillan become the number one? Or do you think they both play next year?
I mean, the way Evans is playing, it doesn't show any signs that he's gonna retire. But you never know. These players get paid so well right now that they can just walk away because they've made the money. Plus, they can make so much money doing these, commercials and all this other stuff. But Evans does seem like he's someone that would play again. He's got a quarter. Like, he's not like he's gonna go into a rebuilding situation next year. Like you see some players, like Myles Garrett said, I want to be back on the Browns, but I don't want to rebuild.
Right.
So he doesn't want to be back on the Browns.
Right.
So like I think Mike Evans will come back just because they do have a chance. I mean, their NFC's weak. They could be a contender in that with one or two moves. And if Chris Godwin was healthy, I mean, this team's good now. They should win the division. But I mean, if Chris Godwin was on a tear,
was tearing it up. He was tearing it up.
He was the number one wide receiver. Yeah, he was.
He hasn't played since week 5. He still has like 20 more catches than Kyle Pitts.
Yeah.
Yeah, but most people don't really like Pitts around here.
The only way I could see Mike Evans retiring is if they go to the Super Bowl and they win that bad boy. That's the only way I could see him, Greg. Because I think what Dave just talked about, him believing in this team, believing in this offense. Now you get that second Super Bowl, I think that'll be more of an incentive to just walk away and be like, hey, I got the 1,000 yards. Hopefully he gets that. I've already broken that record. I got 2 Super Bowls. I'm in the Hall of Fame already. Like, I think that would be an incentive for him to walk away. The money thing, the dude's got enough money. Like, he can make enough money outside of the career, or outside of football. So I think that would be the only reason he would retire, is if somehow, look, the Bucs catch he's a hot streak and they get to that Super Bowl. And look, Baker Mayfield is playing as good as any quarterback not named Joe Burrow right now.
Or Jared Goff.
Not named Joe Burrow right now.
Or Jared Goff. Jared Goff is
not named Joe Burrow.
If you look at quarterback statistics outside of running the ball, Jared Goff is leading everybody.
Jared Goff is nice. No, I love Jared Goff. I think Jared Goff's a
and that brings up another point that I want Rick's opinion on. I heard on YouTube this week, Micah Parsons was asked something. I don't know what the question was, and I'm paraphrasing here, but basically they were talking about free agents and destinations, and he said, who wants to go to Detroit? Now, you tell me, if you're a free agent, would you rather be playing for Dan Campbell in Detroit or whoever the coach is in Dallas?
Yeah.
Rick, what do you think?
You don't have to tee up a question about the Dallas Cowboys, anything. So I'm going to be laughing about that. But yeah, that's, and it was interesting about the previous conversation. I think Chris Godwin he's either in the final year of his contract or it's a voidable year. So that also might play into this decision as well. Cause he did look great at the start of the season. But that is a pretty large contract, I think. And so McMillan really fits in better in place of Godwin as opposed to in place of Evans. So that would be, and also in tying this back to where did Jalen McMillan go to school? University of Washington.
Right? Yeah.
One of the 3 wide receivers there. Who was one of the other ones?
Jalen Polk, Aroma Dunze, and then like all 3. That's great. No wonder why Michael Penix was so good. No, I'm just kidding. Michael Penix is nice.
That's what I was gonna say.
Right, I like.
He had better receivers there than he did in Atlanta. So
man,
all right. So we're gonna break this one down a little bit early so that we can go to Tipp's last segment, and that's our mailbag segment, Iggy.
Man, we love when we get questions in from the mailbag section, guys. And this first one is not really pertaining to week 18, but it's a question that we're going to answer collectively. What strategy are you looking to lead with in your 2025 drafts based off of the 2024 results? And I'll start with this one so I can kind of make it, let you guys know where my thought process is. I talked about the zero RB theory. I love the zero RB theory for a long time. I won many championships dealing with it because it always gave me I would always have really 2 stud wide receivers, a stud third wide receiver, and then worry about the team falling behind there, get a decent quarterback, tight end, and then my running back situation, I would just play with get running backs that were decent or I thought had good upside, and then try to find a diamond in the rough throughout the drafts and then throughout the regular season hitting the waiver wire. But this year, I discovered something even more. I didn't discover it. A lot of people are already talking about it. But I discovered for my fantasy team that I like the hero RB approach. And basically what that is, to me, it's like getting a player like Bijan Robinson and then going and getting those stud wide receivers and stud tight ends and things like that. And a lot of my teams I were very successful in, I was able to do something like that. So I started off getting, a top running back, I got Bijan Robinson in this one. And then after that, I went heavy on wide receivers. And I thought it was a fun build. I thought I always have that stud running back instead of having a piece running backs together, as long as that player didn't get hurt. But I think I'm going to keep trying this approach for the next few years. And it shows that the running backs can score, usually the wide receivers are scoring points, but the wide receivers were getting hurt this year. We had a lot of wide receivers get hurt this year, a lot. And a lot of them to serious injuries. And so that was another reason why I was like, man, okay, the wide receivers are usually, they're not as fragile, but this year it's proven a little bit of an opposite way. So that's why I'm going to hero RB approach. I think I'm going to try it again next year. But don't hate me if I go back to the zero RB theory too, just because I love it. Greg, what about you?
Okay, so I think the zero RB theory is crazy. Cray. I always have. I've always been a stud running back guy. But in one of I only made the playoffs in 2 leagues. And in one of them, my running backs were, and I'm reading it right now, Derrick Henry, Bijan Robinson,
oh boy,
Jonathan Taylor.
Wow.
And I lost in the first round.
Oh.
So next year, I have decided, you call it a hero running back. I'm going balanced approach, best player available. My goal is to get a top 12 player at each of the major 4 positions, quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end, which means my first 2 picks will probably be running back, wide receiver, or wide receiver, running back, depending on where I draft and who's already gone. I'm going with the best player available at those 2 positions. But even if running back is the best player available in the second round, if I went first round, I'm not taking him. I'm going balanced and
right.
And hoping that I can weather the storm this year. Oh, and by the way, I had the highest scoring game that I had all year with that lineup the week after I lost.
Oh my, I hate that, man. Yeah.
So, but you just never know. And balanced approach just gives you a little bit better shot. Hey, if I'd have gone with Bucky Irving as my rookie running back, I'd have probably done better in a lot of leagues than going with Forum.
Yeah, so, I was talking, and I remember at the beginning of the season, I was talking people away from Bucky Irving because I was taking the approach that he was a little too small.
You were worried about Rashad White.
Yeah, I was, and Bucky Irving's proven nothing but just to be fantasy goodness so far in his young season or his young career. All right, so we're gonna go to Dave next for this one. What is the strategy that you're looking for in 2025?
Yeah, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with the league, but the height supremacist. I think everybody needs to stop with the running backs have to be 215, 220 pounds. You look at Kyron Williams, you look at Jahmyr Gibbs, you look at Bucky Irving, all those guys, they've been killing it. Chase Brown. But for me, one of the things
Chase Brown's 210.
210, okay. One of the things I've been really, you don't play for second place. And I think, swinging for upside and not being afraid to draft rookies is important. They're getting the rookies so early. Back when Odell Beckham was a rookie, you still did not draft rookie wide receivers. now, like you have to draft rookie wide receivers. And you look at these guys, they're getting them involved early. We have 3 rookie wide receivers get 1,000 yards this year. Yeah, we didn't have the rookie running backs that we normally do, but you look at Brock Bowers, look at last year, you could have started an entire squad of rookies, and you could have done it this year too. Jaden Daniels was a 10th round pick. And so for me, I'm going to get my studs. I'm going to go best player available the first 7 or 8 rounds. And then probably my onesie positions, tight end and quarterback. I'm not going to go and get 2 or 3 quarterbacks, 2 or 3 tight ends. I'm going to stack up upside rookie wide receivers, running backs, instead of getting those guys that, like they're projected for 10 points. So it says to draft them, but you're like, that's probably the best I'm going to get from that dude. I'm going to go shoot for upside, try to find that Puka Nacua, that, those guys that are later in the draft.
Hey, Dave, when are you taking your quarterback and your tight end?
I'm not taking my quarterback until, this year I was telling everybody, Jaden Daniels in the 10th versus Anthony Richardson in the 5th, no brainer.
Oh, you could have got
Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, I mean, Baker Mayfield
What
was
about
going
your
late like
tight
that.
end?
Yeah.
Are you going to try to get a top tight end, or are you just going to wait and take whoever's available?
It depends. If I'm in a super flex league, then it's going to flip flop. I'm not going to go early tight end and early quarterback. In a late quarterback, yeah, I'm going to go early tight end. I'm going to get one in the I like to tier based draft, so I'll take my top 3, top 6, whatever it is, and try to get somebody in those tiers. Usually, you get your best value getting the last guy out of the tier. But if I know that the next round is probably going to be a bunch of tight ends, I'm going to take my guy. But yeah, tier-based drafting for me, probably a early to mid-round tight end, and then I'm going to go with a late quarterback.
Fair enough.
Right.
Oh, by the way, before Rick answers, JC's full of crap. The Lions are winning.
Maybe we can get to that too if we have some more time. But Rick, go ahead. What's going to be a strategy?
Okay, well, it really depends on the type of league. For example, underdog, people pound away at wide receiver early and often. They may go 6, 7 rounds before they even think about going to, running back. But most of mine, and I kind of follow Dave on this, is dynasty. So a lot of my drafts are rookie drafts as opposed to, like redrafts or startup drafts. So I'm really looking at what the college crop has for that particular year. This year, it's a big running back. So I'm probably going to hit hard on running back this year. We mentioned Brock Bowers. There's a couple of tight ends that look pretty good. Tyler Warren and Colston Leveland are both really good prospects. Maybe not quite Bowers, but certainly just that next half step down below him. So I'll be looking at those towards maybe the end of the first round. But it's such a great running back crop that, even after Ashton Ginty, you got a number of running backs that are probably going to go pretty early. Quarterbacks, not so much.
Name names, because I know Genty. I don't know anybody else. Who else is good?
Hampton. Ohio State has 2 running backs.
Deion Henderson, Quinshon
Judkins, and there's others that are sneaking up the ranks too. So I think that you're going to see a number of running backs go in the first 2 rounds of most dynasty rookie drafts. The quarterbacks, again, Shadir Sanders, I have my doubts about him. Cam Ward, I have doubts about him. I probably wouldn't touch a quarterback in the first round. But it depends on the draft. I mean, again, and usually I'll just say best player available, because if Tett's there when I'm drafting in the first couple of picks, if I'm like 101 through 104, I'll be looking at Tett. And depending on, if he's a cornerback or if he's going to play wide receiver, I'll be looking at Hunter.
Hey, Rick.
Yes, sir.
Fizzle Dallas asks, it says Caleb Johnson, Iowa.
Caleb Johnson. Yeah, he might go the second.
What kind of back
not the second, third running back.
What kind of back is he?
Big, fast, hard running.
Is he a Derrick Henry
it's
type?
Like Trey Benson? Trey Benson's big.
Not Derrick Henry type, but he's I think 6'1", 6 foot, but 250 15,
Yeah.
220 pounds. He's a big guy.
How do you do against my Wolverines?
He plays for Iowa. Come on.
And how do you do against my Wolverines? Yeah.
I don't know if Michigan's going to have many first-round picks. I guess
Oh,
Carlton
they're gonna-
Loveland is probably the best of their players.
Will
their
Johnson.
defensive tackle going. Will Johnson may be a first-round pick, but Ernest Graham. Ernest Graham will be a probably top 5 pick in the draft. The tackle, defensive tackle.
Yeah, I was going to say that we're getting into IDP.
Mason Graham. Got the name wrong. And
I was like Ernest Graham. That was the Tampa Bay running back in the day.
Yeah. Mason Graham. He's probably a top 5 pick.
Hampton Johnson, Dylan is getting a lot of buzz right now. So, but still need to look at a lot more tape before I know for sure.
All right, let's get to some more questions because I hopefully have a little time we can talk about this Lions Vikings game. Kevin asked, this is for you, Dave. For the championship week, well, of course, because this is the last week. All right, anyway, who would you start, Isaac Garindo or Ray Davis? Now, this is interesting because of what James Cook, what might happen with him not playing, and it's a full PPR.
I'm gonna go with Garindo. I love Ray Davis, but we've seen Ray Davis with Josh Allen, with the starters, with everything. If he ends up with Mitch Trubisky, I don't know if it's you get the same Ray Davis that we've seen. I do like them both. I got them both inside my top 16, but I got Garindo 5 spots higher. You're gonna see probably with Josh Dobbs, and Josh Dobbs is a serviceable quarterback. You saw him come in the other day and earn himself another contract. Juwan Jennings is going to get 25 targets this week. But, I'm going to go with Garindo. I think you can start them both, but I'm going to go with Garindo as my I got him to my top 10.
Okay. All right, Greg. Jertman asked for this week, who would you start out of these 3? I need 2. Kareem Hunt, Ramondre Stevenson, and Devon Achane.
He needs 2 starters. So
yeah.
Kareem Hunt is probably going to start and play most of the game at Denver. They're the number 12 defense in terms of fantasy points allowed to running backs. So they're a tough matchup, the toughest of the 3 backs. The last 2 games, he's done 20 carries, 75 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 targets, 2 catches, 24 yards, no touchdowns. Stevenson is playing Buffalo, easiest matchup. They're number 24 against running backs, but he's had 14 carries for 81 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 targets, 1 catch, 13 yards, no touchdowns. And Achane is playing the 13th ranked defense, but he's had the best usage the last 2 weeks. 27 carries, 145 yards, a touchdown. 9 targets, 8 receptions, 83 yards. I'm sitting Stevenson in this group. I'm going with Hunt and Achane.
Yeah, no, I like that one too. I think that's the best one. Stevenson would be a sit for me. All right, for me, Susan needs either Joe Flacco or Michael Penix Jr. This is first of all, both of them have really easy matchups. So you got the Colts going against the Jaguars, and then you've got the Falcons playing the Carolina Panthers. So I think you have both really good upside. So now to me, it's like, who has the best opportunity to turn that into a game into a shootout? And with the offense that the Jaguars are showing, it's been pretty abysmal. The only bright spot has been Brian Thomas Jr. So for me, I'm going to go ahead and play Michael Penix this week. The Falcons need to win this game too. So they put a lot of pressure on themselves, not winning some winnable games. And now they really need to win this week. I know Bijan Robinson's been a beast all season long, especially here recently. But Michael Penix will get him the ball as well. He's starting to look like, I know we talked about Kyle Pitts earlier. He's starting to look like he favors Kyle Pitts a little bit. And if Kyle Pitts can get it together, that'll just be another element for Michael Penix Jr. I think this is the week you start him and you be confident in it. But I wouldn't hate if you started Joe Flacco either, because he's going to.
Is Anthony Richardson definitely out?
That's another point too. I want to say he is. Let me double check it.
I don't know
I
that
think
he
we're
is.
still looking at the, because he's been.
He said
sore
he
the last
wants
2
to
weeks.
play this week, and there's a chance he could play. So
God,
I agree
why?
with you on the Penix call.
Yeah.
Why?
I also with Penix.
Why would he want? They said back injury kept him from standing and walking. I
It's
don't
the
know.
last game of the year for them. He wants to play.
He was a non-participant today too. So and then he said
Yeah, it's
Colt
Wednesday.
Anthony. Colt Anthony Richards says back injury kept him from standing and or walking. Wow. I haven't read. I'll read that one tonight. That's intriguing. Because that's what he does is he uses his legs, guys. Like I don't know what else to say.
You got a question for Rick, I know.
I do. I have a question for Rick. Petey Pat asks, which defense are you starting this week? Philadelphia's or the LA Chargers?
So both good defenses, and maybe a couple weeks ago I would have said Philadelphia with no question. But I think Chargers have something to play for. Philadelphia, we mentioned the possibility of sitting some of their offensive players. Well, they may sit some of their defensive starters as well. So I would take the Chargers defense.
Yeah. Okay. I like it. All right. We got a few minutes. We could talk about this Lions versus the Vikings game real quick. And for me, I don't want this to turn into a bloodbath with these guys because they're going to need their players in the playoffs. So I don't know what to think about it. I know that a lot is riding on this as far as not playoff positioning or playoff, getting in the playoffs, but it's more about the positioning, who's going to have home field advantage. And I know that's a big thing. But I will say this, I just don't want these two teams to beat each other up too bad, because if one of their players, one of their, key players gets banged up and is going to be out the first week of the playoffs or maybe even longer, that's going to really, really hurt them. So they've got to play it. And I don't think that, Dan Campbell, he showed last week, he was going to play his starters. He doesn't care. And now he's faced to where he has to play his starters. And so I'm wondering if that rest last week could have been a little bit more beneficial to them. I don't think so, but we never would know. But for me, that's the only concern I have. I think it's going to be a hell of a game. I think it's going to definitely be a playoff atmosphere. It's definitely going to be some hard hits, some really great plays that are being seen. It's going to be a fun one. And I don't know I haven't picked my winner yet. I'm leaning towards the Vikings just because the Detroit Lions are banged up a little bit, and I think the Vikings will take advantage of that. But I haven't come out with my final prediction on it yet. So I'll just open it up. What do you guys think?
Detroit has been banged up all year. They lost touch in week 6. They played extremely well all year, and it's in Detroit. This game is in Detroit. So what do I think? Well, I'm a Lions fan. What do you think I think? Dan Campbell's going to have his players up for this game, and they are going to win this game. Now, will it be a blowout? No, it won't be a blowout, but they will win it. They'll find a way to win it. That's all they do. And they do create turnovers. And let's face it, Sam Darnold has looked extremely good this year. Go back and look at his history. This is a big game. They are going to hit Darnold. And look at how he plays when he gets hit versus when he's got time. Now, who's got the better running back? Detroit, right? Who's got the better wide receivers? I give that to Minnesota. Who's got the better quarterback? Detroit. Who's got the better offensive line? Detroit. Who's got the better defense? Minnesota. Who's got the better kicker? Detroit. I'm giving it to Detroit. And JC?
It sounds to me like there's no arguments from you on this one.
Well, Rick, Dave, what do you think?
I'm gonna go with the Vikings. They're healthier. The Detroit Lions have not had a bye since week 5. That early bye hurt them. They're banged up, and they just almost lost to San Francisco, who's been playing really poorly. You look at the 49ers. They put up 6 points against the Rams. I get it. There was the rain. 17 points against the Dolphins. And then they throw up 34 and move the ball very, very easily against that Detroit Lions defense. I think they're going to have a big problem with those pass catchers. Aaron Jones is also, part of that. And so for me, it just comes down to the healthier team. I think that they're very close. It's going to be a playoff atmosphere, be a very close game, and it might come down to who turns the ball over and who doesn't. I love the aggressiveness of Dan Campbell, but it's always funny when he says at the halftime, we need to get points. We can't go down to the red zone and leave points on the board. And it's like, well, you just passed up on 2 30-yard field goals, Dan. But yeah, it's for me, it's Minnesota because they're healthier. That's it.
I'm also choosing Minnesota. Best player on Detroit is Jahmyr Gibbs, going up against perhaps
not Amon-Ra? It's not
second.
Amon-Ra?
Going against perhaps the second best, if not the best, defense against the run. And so I think that is probably going to be the key matchup. And I think it's going to be a close game, but I would pick Minnesota over Detroit. Plus, I want to get Greg upset.
Yeah, you don't need to be upset because Detroit's going to win. And I'm going to be talking about it next week. You watch.
Yeah,
right. And Greg, who do we have on next week?
Oh, who do we have on next week? I've actually got that. Next week we've got Pat Tamez, Amy Pat Tamez from Twitter. So, Dave, do you have any last words for the audience before we close up?
No, just everybody, make sure you give all these guys a follow, sub to this show, and thanks for having me on.
Oh, it's a pleasure. We'll get you back on again. Joe, you want to tell anybody what you're working on right now?
Rick.
Joe's probably calling into the show right now to say what he's working on.
Well, Joe's the one that said O'Connell was a better coach than Dan Campbell. So I'm thinking about rescinding my offer for him to take my spot. I really am. If he believes that, this show
he's a good
just
coach.
No,
Kevin O'Connell's a good coach though. But I don't know.
He's not better than Dan Campbell.
Yeah.
Not 5 greater than's better than Dan Campbell. He's just trying to yank my chain, and
So I'll get Greg off the hook on this. Yeah, Joe and I will be both here in a couple of weeks, and we'll be during the off season, so it won't be sits and starts as much as trying to be more topical, discuss all sorts of advice on, or bring up all sorts of advice to help the fantasy player be more successful. We'll talk about draft preparation. We'll talk about roster construction. We'll talk about different types of leagues. We'll encourage people to branch out if they haven't tried an IDP league. That's one of my favorites. So I'll be promoting that during the show. But and we'll have guests to help us provide advice to help the players win.
Great. And Tipp will be calling in from the airport next week on his way to Vegas to the Football Guys annual meeting in Vegas. So enjoy yourself there, Tipp.
Thank you. Yep, I will.
That's
All
it.
right. That's it.